It was a calm and quiet night. The stars glittered in the sky, and the cool breeze gently moved the trees. Lucas stood outside his small house, gazing up at the stars. He was a young man, curious about the universe, and often dreaming of what lay beyond Earth. As he stared into the sky, a strange sensation washed over him, a feeling that something was different about tonight. The night felt unusually still, almost too still. He shook the thought from his mind, thinking it was just his imagination. "It's another peaceful evening," he muttered to himself. But the moment he said that, something caught his eye. A bright light flashed across the sky, brighter than any star he had ever seen. It moved quickly, darting in and out of the clouds, making it look like a shooting star. But there was something strange about it. It was too fast, too controlled. It didn't follow the typical path of a comet or meteor. It seemed to be moving on its own, as if it had a purpose. Lucas narrowed his eyes, watching in awe as the light grew larger and brighter. His heart began to race, and for the first time, that night, he felt a sense of fear. The light suddenly changed direction, heading straight towards him. His mind raced, wondering if it was a plane or some kind of drone. But no, this was unlike anything he had ever seen. Without warning, the light descended rapidly, and with a sharp, electric hum, it vanished. Lucas blinked in confusion. He could have sworn that the bright light had landed somewhere in the woods behind his house. His curiosity got the better of him. He couldn't resist. He grabbed a flashlight from the house and made his way into the dark forest. The air grew colder as he walked deeper into the woods. The only sound was the crunch of leaves beneath his boots. Trees were dense, blocking out much of the moonlight, and the shadows seemed to stretch longer than usual. Lucas felt a chill run down his spine, but he pressed on, determined to find the source of the strange light. After what felt like an eternity, Lucas reached a clearing in the woods. His flashlight illuminated something in the center of the open space. There, in the middle of the clearing, was a ship. Not just any ship, but something that looked completely alien. The sleek, silver surface shimmered in the dim light, and strange symbols were etched into its body. It didn't belong to any human technology Lucas had ever seen. His breath caught in his throat. He had read about UFOs before, but never imagined he would be standing in front of one. Before Lucas could even process what he was seeing, a low hum echoed through the air. A figure appeared before him, stepping out from behind the ship. It was a girl, but unlike any girl Lucas had ever seen. She was tall, with glowing, iridescent skin that shimmered like the stars. Her long hair floated around her, as if defying gravity. Her eyes were the most striking of all, glowing a deep violet that seemed to pierce through the darkness. Lucas froze in place, unable to speak. He had never felt so small in his entire life. The girl smiled, but it wasn't a smile of kindness. It was mischievous, as if she knew something Lucas didn't. She tilted her head slightly, studying him like a specimen. There was an odd sense of amusement in her eyes. "Hello, human," she said, her voice smooth and melodic with an accent that sounded almost musical. Lucas could hardly believe his ears. Was he hearing things? Was he dreaming? But no, this was real. He was standing in front of an alien, an actual alien. "What? Who are you?" Lucas finally managed to stammer, his voice shaky. The girl stepped closer, and Lucas felt a strange pull, as if she were drawing him in with her presence. Her eyes never left his. "What else do you expect to receive from me, human?" she asked playfully, her lips curling into a teasing smile. Lucas took a step back, trying to make sense of the situation. His mind was racing with 1,000 questions. How could she be here? Where was she from? Why had she come to Earth? But before he could ask anything else, the girl raised a hand, and the air around them seemed to crackle with energy. "You're not ready for the truth," she said cryptically, her voice now taking on a more serious tone. "But don't worry, you'll find out soon enough." With that, the alien girl took a step back, her form blurring slightly, as if she was becoming one with the night. Lucas blinked, and in an instant she was gone. The only evidence of her presence was the faint glow that lingered in the air. and the thumping of Lucas's heart in his chest. He stood there for a long time, unable to move, trying to comprehend what had just happened. He had just encountered something that would change his life forever. What did she mean by, "You'll find out soon enough"? And what truth was she talking about? As Lucas walked back to his house, his mind was filled with unanswered questions. He had no idea that this encounter was only the beginning of an incredible journey, one that would take him to the farthest reaches of the galaxy and beyond. The morning after the strange encounter, Lucas awoke with a heavy heart. His mind raced as he replayed the events of the previous night over and over again. Had it really happened? Was the alien girl real? He rubbed his eyes, hoping the fog of sleep would clear the confusion swirling inside his head. But no matter how hard he tried, the memory of the glowing eyes, the teasing smile, and the cryptic words remained vivid. Lucas knew one thing for sure. He couldn't forget what he had seen. He had to find answers. The day passed in a blur. The world outside seemed completely ordinary, people walking by, cars driving down the street, birds chirping. Yet Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Everywhere he went, his eyes darted around, half expecting to see the alien girl again, or to find something else that confirmed what he had witnessed the night before. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lucas returned to the woods. His footsteps were slow, deliberate. He had no idea what he was hoping to find, but he knew he had to go back. The pull to return to the clearing was irresistible, as if something beyond his understanding was guiding him. The moment Lucas stepped into the woods, the atmosphere seemed to change. The air felt thicker, the trees standing taller, almost as if they were guarding some secret. He reached the clearing once again, but this time, something was different. The ship was still there, but it seemed ... quieter. The once bright metallic surface was now dim and faintly glowing, as if it had been waiting for him. A sense of anticipation hung in the air. Before Lucas could approach, a soft voice called out from behind him. "You came back." Lucas turned around, his breath catching in his throat. There, standing in the shadows of the trees, was the alien girl. Her iridescent skin shimmered even more under the fading light, and her violet eyes seemed to glow brighter than before. But there was something new in her gaze, something far less playful, more intense, almost as if she were sizing him up. "Why are you here?" Lucas asked, his voice trembling. He hadn't expected to find her again so soon. "I told you, human," she replied, stepping closer. "You're part of something much bigger than you realize. I wasn't just watching you last night, I've been observing this planet for a long time." Lucas could feel his pulse quicken as she spoke. He didn't know whether to be afraid or fascinated by her. Her presence was magnetic, but also intimidating. "What do you want from me?" The girl smiled, her expression now unreadable. "What I want and what you need are two very different things." She raised her hand, and a soft hum filled the air. "You're about to learn things no one on Earth has ever known?" Lucas took a step back, his instincts telling him to flee, but his curiosity held him rooted in place. "I don't understand," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You don't have to understand," she said, her voice softer now, almost coaxing. "But I need you to trust me. You've already seen something you weren't supposed to see, Lucas. You're entangled in something bigger than yourself. But that's why I'm here, to guide you." Her words sent a chill down his spine. He had no idea what she meant by entangled. But the fact that she knew his name, he hadn't even told her, made him wonder just how much she knew about him. "Where are you from?" Lucas finally asked, his voice steadying as he tried to gather his thoughts. "What do you want with Earth?" She chuckled lightly, a sound that echoed eerily through the woods. "I'm from far beyond your stars, Lucas. From a place you can't even imagine. And Earth. Well, Earth is about to play a much bigger role in the universe than you know. It's not just a rock in space." She paused, her eyes locking with his. "It's a key." Lucas blinked in confusion. "A key? Key to what?" The girl stepped closer, her violet eyes now glowing brighter than ever. "To everything. The universe, its secrets, its future, and even its destruction." She leaned in, her breath warm on his ear. "But don't worry, Lucas. You'll learn what it means soon enough." Before he could respond, the ground beneath them shook. A low rumble echoed through the trees, and Lucas felt his heart skip a beat. The alien girl's eyes flashed, and she looked toward the sky. "They're coming," she whispered, her voice cold now. "You'll have to make a choice soon, Lucas. But not yet. Not tonight." The sky overhead darkened, and the faint outline of another ship appeared, moving across the horizon. It was much larger than the one from last night, and its shape was like nothing Lucas had ever seen. It had an eerie, menacing presence, as if it didn't belong to this world. "Who are they?" Lucas asked, fear creeping into his voice. "Others," she replied simply, her tone serious. "It's the ones who will stop at nothing to find me. But they won't stop at just me. They'll come for you too." Suddenly, the alien girl raised her hand again, and the ground beneath Lucas shifted, as though the earth itself was reacting to her power. In the distance, he could hear the sound of approaching footsteps, heavy, purposeful. "Run," she urged, "and remember what I said. You have a choice, but time is running out." Before Lucas could respond, she vanished into the shadows. Leaving him alone in the eerie silence of the forest, his mind racing with more questions than answers. Lucas didn't sleep that night. His mind kept replaying the events from the woods, the alien girl, Zara, and her cryptic words. He could still feel the tension in the air, the rumbling beneath his feet, the feeling that something far bigger than himself was unfolding before him. But as the sun rose, a strange resolve filled him. He knew he couldn't ignore what was happening. He had to find answers. That afternoon, Lucas returned to the clearing, hoping to encounter Zara again. His heart raced as he approached the spot, half expecting her to appear at any moment, but there was no sign of her. The ship, however, was still there, slightly hidden behind the trees, as though waiting for him to approach. As Lucas stepped closer, something caught his eye, a faint glow from within the ship. He hesitated for a moment, but the pull of curiosity was too strong to ignore. He reached the ship's sleek metallic surface, and to his surprise, a panel slid open with a soft hiss, revealing the inside. It was dimly lit, with strange symbols. Glowing on the walls, "Don't touch that." The voice came from behind him, startling him so much that he nearly stumbled backward. Zara stood just outside the ship, watching him with those glowing violet eyes. She had appeared without warning, as if she had been there all along. "I thought you'd be curious," Zara continued, stepping forward. Her presence seemed to radiate both power and mystery. "But you need to understand something, Lucas. What you're about to uncover is not something most humans should know." Lucas stood there, staring at her. "What do you mean by that? What is all this? Why me?" Zara's expression softened for a moment, as if considering whether to reveal more. "You were chosen, not by me, not by the ship, but by something much older." Her gaze turned distant for a brief moment, as though she were lost in thought. "The universe has its ways of picking certain individuals. You've seen too much now, Lucas. There's no going back." Lucas's mind was spinning with questions. Chosen for what? And what's all this about the universe? Are you part of some kind of alien government? A secret organization? Zara gave a slight chuckle. "I'm not part of any government." "Lucas, what you see here is not some alien conspiracy. It's much more complicated than that." Her eyes flickered with something unreadable. "What you're dealing with is a force much older than any of us, older than Earth, older than your species. And it has plans for your planet." Lucas took a step forward, his curiosity now outweighing his fear. "What plans? What's going to happen?" Zara paused, as if debating how much to reveal. "There are forces at play in this universe that operate on a scale you can't even begin to comprehend. You see, Earth is not just a random speck in the universe. It's a key, a link between worlds, a nexus for ancient power." Lucas's mind raced. "A key? A link to what?" Zara's gaze darkened, and her voice dropped to a whisper. "I too." "The future of the universe itself. There's a balance, Lucas, a delicate one. And right now, Earth is at the center of it. If the wrong hands get a hold of that power, it could mean the end of everything." The weight of her words hung in the air, suffocating him with their enormity. "So what does this have to do with me?" Zara's eyes bore into his, her gaze unwavering. "Because you're more than just a human, Lucas. You've been chosen. Because your very existence is tied to this power. You're connected to it in a way that no one else is. Lucas's heart skipped a beat. He felt a strange sensation inside him, something that he couldn't explain. It was as though a part of him was waking up, something deep within him stirring. What? What do you mean? Zara stepped closer, her presence overwhelming. You're connected to the Nexus, Lucas. The key isn't just a physical object, it's within you. You've always had it, but now it's starting to awaken. Before Lucas could respond, Zara raised her hand, and the air around them seemed to shimmer. With energy, suddenly Lucas felt a pulse inside him, like a heartbeat that wasn't his own. His vision blurred for a moment, and in that instant, strange symbols appeared in his mind. Symbols he had never seen before, but somehow knew. He stumbled back, his head spinning. What was that? Zara watched him intently. That was the awakening. The power within you is starting to manifest. It's always been there, but now it's beginning to respond. That's why I came to you. You need to understand what's at stake. Lucas's mind was reeling. He had thought his life was normal. He had thought he was just an ordinary guy, living in an ordinary world. But now everything was changing, so what now? What am I supposed to do with this power? Face grew serious, her eyes narrowing. You have to decide, Lucas. The universe is watching, and it's all up to you. You can choose to protect this power and ensure it's used for good, or you can let others use it for their own destruction. Lucas felt the weight of her words settle in. He had never asked for this, never asked for any of it. But now he was caught in a web far larger than anything he could have imagined. Who else is after this power? Lucas asked, his voice barely a whisper. Zara's eyes flickered to the sky, where a shadowy figure moved across the stars. The ones I've been running from. The ones who would use the power for their own gain. Won't stop until they find it and you. Lucas's heart pounded in his chest. He knew his life had changed forever. There was no going back now. The days that followed felt like an eternity. Lucas could barely concentrate on anything. His mind was consumed with the truth Zara had revealed. The Nexus, the ancient power, the enemies hunting them. He had never imagined his life would take such a turn. One moment, he was an ordinary guy trying to get through life, and the next, he was at the center of an intergalactic struggle for the future of the universe. The pressure was suffocating. Every night he returned to the clearing hoping to find Zara, to understand what he was supposed to do next. But she never came. She had warned him that there were forces after them, forces he couldn't fully comprehend yet. She told him to stay hidden, to remain in the shadows, but every part of him screamed to take action. Couldn't just sit by and wait. He had to do something. Then, one evening, as Lucas sat on the porch of his house, trying to push away the weight of the world from his mind, he saw a flicker of movement in the distance. His heart skipped a beat. He knew it wasn't his imagination. Something was there, before he could react. The familiar hum of the alien ship filled the air, and a shadowy figure appeared before him. Lucas's breath caught in his throat. It was Zara. Zara, hey, where have you been? He asked, rushing towards her. I've been waiting for you. I need answers. What's happening? What am I supposed to do? She looked at him with an unreadable expression, her violet eyes shimmering in the fading light. There was a calmness about her now, a sense of control that hadn't been there before. I've been keeping a distance for a reason, Lucas. You're not ready to be thrown into the heart of this yet. Lucas's frustration bubbled to the surface. I'm ready now. Can't just keep sitting around while the universe is at stake. You said I had the power. You said I was the key, so why am I being kept in the dark? Zara's gaze softened for a moment. She stepped closer, her voice low. I'm not keeping you in the dark, Lucas. I'm trying to protect you. You have no idea the kind of danger you're in. Is the power within you? It's dangerous. If the wrong people get to it, if they control it. Before she could finish, sharp noise rang through the air, followed by a crackling sound. Lucas's heart dropped. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Zara's eyes flickered toward the trees, her posture suddenly tense. They're here. Suddenly, A blast of energy shot through the air, hitting the ground beside them with a force that made the earth tremble. The ground cracked open, and from the shadows emerged figures clad in dark armor, their eyes glowing with a menacing red light. Lucas's blood ran cold. These weren't the peaceful beings he had imagined. These were the enemies Zara had warned him about. The alien girl stepped in front of him, her posture protective. But there was no mistaking the look in her eyes. She was worried. "Run, Lucas," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "No," Lucas shouted, his instincts kicking in. "I'm not leaving you." Zara turned back to face him, her expression hardening. "You don't have a choice." Before Lucas could argue, the figures advanced. One of them stepped forward, his voice deep and guttural. "Zara, we've been searching for you. Surrender now, and we'll make your death painless." Zara's eyes narrowed. "I won't surrender to you."
No, not now.
Ever. Lucas could feel the tension in the air, the weight of their impending doom. But then something inside him clicked. The strange power that Zara had told him about the Nexus began to stir within him. His body hummed with energy, his heart racing. He didn't know how, but he knew he had to act. He stepped forward, towards the advancing enemies. "No," he said, his voice steady. "I won't let you take her." The figure in the front sneered, but then something unexpected happened. The power inside Lucas surged, and without thinking he raised his hand. A burst of energy shot from his palm, striking the enemy with force, sending him flying backward. The others hesitated, clearly caught off guard by Lucas's sudden display of power. Zara's eyes widened in surprise. You've unlocked it?" "I don't know how," Lucas said, his voice shaky but determined. "But I'm not letting them hurt you." Zara stared at him for a long moment, as if seeing him for the first time. "You've made your choice, Lucas," she said softly. "Now we fight." The enemies recovered quickly, but they seemed to be more cautious now. They circled the two of them, unsure how to proceed. But the air was charged with tension, the clash of powers about to erupt. Zara turned to Lucas, her expression serious. "This is no longer just about survival. This is about saving everything." With that, she raised her hands, and the ground around them shifted. A shield of glowing energy surrounded them, keeping the enemy at bay. The leader of the attackers growled. "You think you can stop us? You think you can protect the Nexus?" Zara's gaze locked onto his. "We'll see about that." In that moment, everything changed. The fight was no longer just about running or hiding, it was about standing up for something greater. Lucas was no longer a mere human caught in a strange encounter. He was now part of a war that would decide the future of Earth and the universe. And in that moment, Lucas made a decision. He wasn't going to run. He wasn't going to hide. He was going to fight. The forest was alive with sound, the crackling of trees underfoot, the hum of unseen energy in the air, and the distant thrum of the alien ship. The attack had come swiftly, and now Lucas was running, his heart pounding in his chest, with Zara by his side. Had barely escaped the onslaught, but the pursuit was already underway. The figures in dark armor were relentless. They would stop at nothing to track them down. Lucas had never run so fast in his life. The air seemed to grow thicker with every step, as if the earth itself was resisting their escape. He glanced over at Zara, who moved with a fluid grace, glowing violet eyes scanning their surroundings with a calm intensity. She had seemed invincible earlier, but now there was an edge to her, a hint of urgency that Lucas hadn't seen before. "They're still following us," she said, her voice steady but laced with tension. "We can't outrun them forever." Lucas's mind raced. He'd never been in a situation like this. He'd only just begun to understand the power within him. And now, he was running from forces that were far beyond anything he could comprehend. The power Zara had unlocked in him was still new, raw, and untrained. He didn't even know how to control it. "We need to stop them," Lucas said, his voice tight with determination. "What do we do?" Zara looked at him, her gaze intense. "We fight. It's the only way. We can't keep running forever." Before Lucas could respond, he felt a sudden shift in the air. His body tensed, every muscle alert. A flicker of movement in the distance. The shadows of the tree seemed to shift, and then, as if summoned by the very air itself, the enemy emerged. They were closing in fast. "Get ready," Zara whispered, her voice barely audible. She raised her hand, and the energy around them seemed to pulse, a force Lucas could feel vibrating in his bones. "This is going to be our final stand." Lucas glanced over at her, his mind still processing everything. The weight of their situation was unbearable, but there was a fire inside him now, energy that surged with every beat of his heart. He couldn't run anymore. Without another word, Zara launched herself at the first enemy. Her movements a blur. Energy crackled around her as she struck with precision, sending one of the soldiers sprawling to the ground with a blast of power. Lucas was stunned for a moment, watching as Zara took on their attackers with a skill and power that he could barely comprehend. But he knew he couldn't stand by and watch. He had to act. His hand shot out, and instinctively, he called upon the energy inside him. It flowed from deep within, rushing through his veins like liquid fire. He raised his arm, and without thinking, released a surge of energy. The blast hit its target, knocking one of the soldiers off his feet. But Lucas could feel the power surging out of control. He hadn't yet learned to harness it. He staggered, his head swimming from the strain. Zara was beside him in an instant. "Steadying him? Focus, Lucas. Don't let the power control you." The enemy soldiers circled them, more cautious now, their eyes glowing with a fierce light. "You can't stop us," one of them sneered, his voice low and threatening. "The Nexus belongs to us." Lucas gritted his teeth. The Nexus, the key. The force that had been dormant within him for so long, the power that could save or destroy. Everything. "I won't let you have it," Lucas said through clenched teeth. Zara's eyes flickered with approval. "Then let's make sure they don't get what they want." Together, they fought. Zara's agility and power were unmatched, each strike sending ripples of energy through the air. Lucas, though still untrained, began to feel the connection between himself and the energy around him. He wasn't just fighting with his body anymore. He was fighting with the raw force of the Nexus itself. Every pulse, every surge of power was a part of him now. But the enemy wasn't just fighting to defeat them. They were fighting to capture them. Lucas could feel it. They were searching for something specific, something inside him, and then it hit him. They weren't just after Zara, they were after him. After his connection to the Nexus, his blood ran cold as the realization sank in. He wasn't just part of the battle, he was the battleground. "Zara," he shouted, his voice urgent. "They want me. They want the power inside me." Zara's expression hardened. "Then we need to make sure they never get it." With a final devastating blow, Zara dispatched the last of the attackers, leaving the clearing eerily silent. But Lucas could feel the tension still hanging in the air. The battle was far from over. "We've won for now," Zara said, her voice soft but resolute. "But we're not safe. They'll keep coming, and they'll be stronger next time." Nodded, his mind racing. "What do we do now?" Zara's eyes darkened as she looked at him. "We move. We can't stay here. We need to find a place where they can't track us. A place where the Nexus can be hidden. But what about me?" Lucas asked, his voice trembling with the weight of the truth. "What if they come after me again?" Zara's gaze softened for a brief moment, but there was no hint of fear in her eyes. "You're not alone, Lucas. Not anymore. We're in this together." She turned away, her hand reaching out toward the dense forest ahead. "Let's go. We have a long way to travel before we can truly be safe." And so, Lucas followed her into the unknown, the chase now in full force. They were no longer just fugitives on the run. They were the last line of defense against an ancient force that would stop at nothing to control the Nexus. The future of everything now rested on their shoulders. The world around them was changing, unraveling, as if the very fabric of reality itself was being torn apart. Lucas could feel it deep in his bones. The power within him was growing stronger, more uncontrollable with every passing moment. The Nexus, that ancient force Zara had spoken of, was no longer just a distant concept. It was a part of him, weaving itself into every thought, every action, every breath he took. But with that power came something else. Danger. Dark forces were closing in, their pursuit relentless. The shadowy figures had been replaced with something far worse: an army, a fleet of ships and warriors determined to claim what they believed was rightfully theirs. The stakes had never been higher. Zara had led Lucas to an abandoned city, far from the familiar woods and the open fields. The skyline was jagged, the buildings broken and crumbling. It was a place of forgotten history, where time had left its mark. The perfect place to hide, or so they thought. They had barely set up a temporary camp before the sky darkened, and the air became charged with a strange energy. The hum of the enemy ships filled the air, echoing through the ruins. Zara's expression grew darker, more focused. They're here. Don't have much time. Lucas felt his heart race, his pulse quicken. The uneasy feeling he'd been carrying since the beginning of this journey had grown into something far more real. He was about to face the full force of the enemies who had been chasing them across the galaxy. "We have to fight them, Lucas," said his voice firm, though doubt lingered beneath his words. He didn't feel ready, but there was no turning back now. The nexus inside him throbbed, alive with power. Zara glanced at him, her violet eyes reflecting the urgency of the moment. "You're ready, Lucas, but it's not just about power. It's about control. Remember what I taught you." Before Lucas could respond, a blast of energy struck the ground not far from them, sending dust and debris flying into the air. He stumbled, his body instinctively reacting, raising his hands to shield himself. The enemy was here, and they weren't wasting any time. As the first wave of soldiers stormed into the ruins, Lucas could see them, figures in dark armor there, eyes glowing with a fierce red light, were led by someone much more formidable than the ones they had faced before. A tall, imposing figure emerged from the shadows, his eyes glowing with an unnatural intensity. Zara stepped forward, her hands crackling with energy. "This is it, Lucas, the one we've been running from." The figure before them was no mere soldier. He was the leader of the force, hunting them, someone with a deep connection to the Nexus itself. "You don't belong here," the leader said, his voice cold, commanding. "The Nexus is not for human hands to wield. You will return it to us." Zara's face was expressionless, but there was a fire in her eyes. "You think you can take it from him? You think you can control it?" Her voice was unwavering, defiant. "You're too late." The leader's lips twisted into a cruel smile. "You're not the one who decides that." With a swift motion, he raised his hand, and the ground around them shook. A shockwave of energy rippled outward, knocking Lucas and Zara off their feet. Lucas barely managed to stay on his knees, the power inside him surging wildly. The Nexus was reacting, responding to the threat. He could feel its pull, could feel it urging him to unleash everything he had. "Lucas," Zara's voice broke through the chaos, urgent. "Control it, don't let it control you." But it was too late. The power was overwhelming. A burst of energy shot from Lucas's hands, more intense than anything he had ever felt before. The blast hit the leader's forces with devastating force, sending several soldiers flying. But Lucas couldn't stop. The power was pouring out of him, uncontrolled. A storm of raw energy that ravaged everything in its path. Zara's eyes widened as she saw what was happening. "No, Lucas, you have to focus." But the force of the power was too much. Lucas's vision blurred as the energy surged higher, threatening to consume him. The enemy leader, standing at the center of the battlefield, smirked, as though he were waiting for this moment. Then, in the blink of an eye, everything changed. The enemy leader raised his hand, and a shield of dark energy surrounded him. Blast from Lucas collided with it, but the shield absorbed it, sending the energy back in the opposite direction. The shockwave knocked Lucas off his feet, throwing him several meters back. His head spun, and for a moment, he thought everything had ended. Zara's voice was a distant echo in his mind. "Focus, Lucas. Don't give up." Struggling to his feet, Lucas wiped the blood from his lips and clenched his fists. The leader was walking toward him, his steps slow and deliberate. "You're weak. All this power, and yet you can't control it. You are nothing more than a child playing with forces you don't understand." Lucas gritted his teeth, his hands trembling with both anger and fear. But deep inside, he felt something shift. The Nexus was no longer just a force to be feared. It was a part of him. It was his responsibility, his choice. With a fierce roar, Lucas raised his hand again. But this time it was different. He focused. He centered himself. The energy didn't flood out of him uncontrollably. He harnessed it, shaping it with purpose. The energy swirled around him, forming a barrier of light. As the enemy leader launched another blast, Lucas blocked it with his shield, the force vibrating in his hands. He could feel the Nexus pushing back, its power no longer a burden but an ally. You may have the power, the leader sneered, but you still don't know how to use it. Lucas's eyes burned with determination. I don't need to know how, he said, his voice steady. I just need to stop you. With a burst of focused energy, Lucas sent a wave of pure force toward the enemy leader. The blast shattered the shield, sending the leader sprawling backward. But the victory was short-lived. The enemy leader got to his feet slowly, his eyes, now filled with rage. This isn't over, not by a long shot. But Lucas, with the Nexus now fully awakened inside him, wasn't about to back down. He was ready for whatever came next. The battle had only just begun. The ruins of the battlefield were silent, save for the faint hum of the alien ships in the distance. The dust had settled, but the air was thick with tension. Lucas stood at the center of the broken city, his heart still racing from the confrontation. Zara was by his side, her breathing slow but steady, as though she too were still processing the intensity of the battle. The enemy leader, though weakened, had retreated with his forces, his eyes filled with a promise of future vengeance. But something had shifted within Lucas. The Nexus, that overwhelming power, was no longer something he feared. It was part of him, alive and pulsing, like a second heartbeat in his chest. He had fought with it, controlled it, and now it was up to him to decide what came next. He looked at Zara, his thoughts a whirlpool of confusion and determination. What now? He asked, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. We won the fight, but they'll be back. And they're stronger than ever. Zara's gaze softened, but her eyes were resolute. We've only just begun, Lucas. The Nexus, the power, it's not just about fighting or defending, it's about choice. You have the power to shape everything, but you must decide what you're willing to sacrifice to protect it. Lucas turned, away, gazing out over the ruins of the city. The weight of her words settled heavily on his shoulders. What am I willing to sacrifice? He thought to himself. Was he ready to carry the burden of the Nexus for the rest of his life? Could he live with the consequences of wielding such unimaginable power? You told me that Earth is a key, Lucas said, his voice distant. But is it the kind of key that opens doors, or locks them? Zara stepped closer, her voice calm yet urgent. It's both. The Nexus has the power to open the doors to a new future one, where the universe is united, where Earth is a cornerstone of something much bigger. But it can also lock us away, trapping us in a cycle of war and destruction. The choice, Lucas, is yours. Lucas could feel the power within him, pulsing and alive, waiting for him to make a decision. This is bigger than me, he realized. Bigger than Zara, bigger than Earth itself. The weight of the decision before him was suffocating, yet liberating. He had been running, hiding, but now he had to stand still and face the consequences of his actions. In the distance, the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, casting long shadows across the city. Lucas could almost feel the eyes of the universe on him. He'd already fought to protect the Nexus, but now he had to choose. Would he use its power to change the world, or guard it from the forces that sought to control it? As the sun rose, casting light on the path ahead, Lucas finally spoke, his voice steady with newfound resolve. I can't protect it forever, can I? Zara's gaze was intense, but there was a soft understanding in her eyes. No one can protect the Nexus forever. That's why you need to decide if the world is ready for it. And if you're ready to let go. Lucas's heart hammered in his chest as the weight of his decision sank in. Let go. The thought was almost unthinkable. For all the chaos, the pain, The endless battles, there was something intoxicating about the power of the Nexus. It promised control, ability to reshape the world. But at what cost? The enemy was still out there, gathering strength, ready to return. But Lucas could feel something stirring inside him, something deep and undeniable. If he kept the power, would it destroy him, or would it bring about the change the universe desperately needed? He turned back to Zara, his eyes searching hers for some kind of answer, but there was none. It was his choice, and his alone. "The choice is yours, Lucas," Zara said softly. "You can keep the Nexus, use its power to protect Earth, to protect the future. Or you can destroy it, lock it away, and risk everything slipping into chaos." Lucas stood tall, the full weight of his decision settling into his bones. The world, the universe, was waiting for him to decide. He had faced the enemy, faced his own fear, but now he faced something far more terrifying, the future. "I can't make the same mistakes they did," Lucas said, his voice firm. "I won't use this power to dominate or control. I will use it to protect, to give Earth a chance to stand on its own. The Nexus will not be a weapon, it will be a shield." Zara's eyes flickered with pride, but there was a hint of sadness in them as well. "Then we must act quickly. The others are already preparing for their final assault. They won't stop until they get what they want." Lucas nodded, his heart set. The Nexus was powerful, yes. But its true strength wasn't in domination. It was in protection, in the ability to unite, to heal. And with that understanding, Lucas felt the power within him settle come, courted, controlled, and purposeful. Together they walked toward the ship. The battle was far from over. Time. Lucas understood what it meant to wield the Nexus. It wasn't about the power. It was about the responsibility that came with it. The ultimate choice was not just to protect the world, but to shape it, and to decide what kind of future Earth would have. And as they prepared for the next fight, Lucas knew one thing for certain. This time, he wouldn't run. He would face whatever came with the strength of his choice and with the power of the Nexus in his hands. He would create a future worth fighting for.